When you move to Strangerville, the welcome wagon is like no other. They still bring you fruitcake, but something about them just seems very odd. At times they can even be pushy about you eating their fruitcake, although you don't understand why. She said it was made out of fruit grown in her own backyard. The bizarre plant had been growing ever since a meteor struck just outside of town, ignoring the scientists' warnings. My name is Darth Jeswick, and I'll be telling you about Strangerville, the Diaz story. Lily is an entry-level scientist, and Darian is a professional mascot. They're twins, and they decided to move to Strangerville after college. Due to Darian's outgoing nature, he made quick friends with Erwin Prees, a local curio shop owner. Lily mentioned that she was a scientist, and Erwin asked if she had been working in the crater with the other scientists. He also said that there was now a heavy military presence in the neighborhood. Lily hadn't heard anything about the meteor or the crater, so she went to find someone who did. She came upon a military sergeant named Michael. She asked him about the lab, and he said that the lab is off limits to civilians and that they shouldn't go there. Something about an outbreak, but at that moment his supervisor came and tugged him away. Michael told us to ask any of the scientists that were in town. Some of them were at the library, or you could find them walking around the town. And for that, she was blissfully unaware of the situation unfolding on her front porch. Lily learned that this scientist's name was Cassidy, and that she had only been in the town for a few days, and told Lily that her main focus was on the sewer systems and the town itself. Back home, this was happening. Darian was on his way back from the curio shop, seemingly oblivious to the locals' strange behaviors, although that was probably for his own benefit, because he was hungry, so he wanted to make dinner. He went in through the kitchen door and got to work, avoiding this monstrosity on their front porch. Lily joined Darian in the kitchen, telling him about the scientists that she had met, and that she had given her the number of her superiors, Celeste and Pearl, who had been here for a while studying the crater, and that she was going to meet them later on to discuss what was happening. Later, at the town square, Lily met Pearl and her assistant Cassidy, who seemed very reluctant to talk about anything happening in the crater. Pearl tells Lily that there's nothing to worry about, and that the locals were probably just messing with us because we're new in town, but she still warned us to stay away from the lab, which we completely ignored, because who wouldn't want to check out a giant crater? Some of the gates had been busted down, and there seemed to be no presence of life anywhere, aside from these strange, glowing plants. As Lily and Darian made their way into the lab, they discovered a giant airlock door. They didn't see any scientists or members of the military, so they began searching around, looking through some of the abandoned files and taking notes on the vault's make and model. Lily went off to find anybody that could be in charge, and found nothing but more files. She went to go find Darian, although he had wandered off, traveling through what seemed like a liminal space. He dug through more boxes of information, taking notes on what he found. He then rejoined Lily, who was digging through another file box on the floor. The sun was beginning to set, so they figured it was time to leave for the day, taking with them the information they had gathered. Lily went to speak with Erwin, trying to get to the bottom of this mystery. He promised he would help, but only if she gave him all the information she found. She agreed and started compiling all the data, while Darian went to sleep for the night. It was about 4:30 the next morning. Darian woke up to make breakfast and go on his morning walk. While he was on the walk, he ran into an old friend named Leslie Holland. He waved at her, although she didn't seem to recognize him, which was weird because they had gone to high school and college together. Since she was being so odd, he decided to slap her out of it, and that seemed to work. He asked her how she had gotten that way. Leslie said that she had been out walking when a neighbor wearing a cowboy hat had found her and offered her a bizarre fruit. She ate it and all of a sudden was hearing voices. Darian decided to visit the local bar, the 8 Bells Bar. It was a small bar, but bartenders knew everything. She told Darian that Michael might be able to help. Darian introduced himself to Michael and bought him a drink. They talked for a while, and Michael told him that somehow civilians were getting inside the science lab using some kind of key card, but he wasn't sure where they were getting them. Darian returned home, and the two set out to the lab, looking for any more clues that Lily could use for her dossier. They found a few more files and hoped that that would be enough to earn Irwin's trust. Lily returned to Irwin's stand and gave him the dossier. He handed her over the keycard and told her not to go into the lab without a hazmat suit, and that she could craft one using items found from military service members or the scientists in town. But unfortunately, Darian and Lily completely ignored Irwin's warnings. Lily scanned the keycard and opened the airlock, releasing tons of spores into the air. She wasted no time walking down the stairs into the basement of the lab. Lily inspected the basement, finding a strange cloud of purple gas. She decided she should probably find a hazmat suit. Later that day, they met up with one of Michael's contacts in the military. Michael's superior, Stanley Dooley, arrives, and Lily offers to work together to find the source of the spores. He promises to sell her a spore collector as long as she deals with the problem. She gives him 750 simoleons, and he gives her the spore collector. He asks her if she has a hazmat suit yet. She says no, and he tells her that she can find one by talking to the scientists at the library. They arrive at the information center, and Lily sets to work, running into an old professor, Mr. Orson. Lily tells him about the spores at the lab. Mr. Orson tells Lily to bring a few samples of the spores and that he would make her a spore filter using the spore infection profile data. With this information, her and Darian return to the lab. Lily and Darian decided it would be best to stay outside, so Lily began scanning for spores. She then began collecting all the spores that she found. While Lily collected her spore samples, Darian wandered off to investigate one of the plants. Darian decided to kneel down and nurture the plant, just to see what would happen. The plant let out a cloud of purple and green smoke, along with a small, strange fruit. Darian thought, what's the worst that could happen if I ate it? Lily told Darian not to eat the fruit, but it was already too late. He had already eaten it. She waited to see what would happen, before Darian doubled over in pain and looked like he was possessed. Lily did her best to snap him out of it, but it didn't seem to work. As he wandered off through the pipes, Lily chased after Darian. When she finally caught up with him, he seemed to not recognize her, just like all the others had. He spooked her when he screamed in her face about the mother plant. She slapped him out of it, just like he had done to Leslie, and he seemed to return to his normal self. For now. There was one thing that Leslie knew she had to do: get the infection profile data, so that she could get the hazmat suit and find the mother plant. She gathered a few more spores and entered the lab, creating the infection profile data for Mr. Orson, and hastily leaving the lab. Things in the town seemed to be getting worse. The sky had turned purple, and the strange plants were getting even bigger. Lily turned over the infection profile data to Mr. Orson and his assistant, who told her that she could look out for her hazmat suit in the mail. Lily tried to recruit Cameron as part of her team. She seemed reluctant, but eventually accepted, but only if Lily found the vaccine. The twins returned home from an exhausting day. Lily faked a yawn so that she could check the mailbox, as she still didn't trust Darian after eating the strange fruit. The hazmat suit had came, so she put the items together in her inventory. They went straight to bed and tried to get a restful night's sleep. Or so Darian thought, as he suddenly started hearing, "Join us in the crater," in his head, repeatedly. He rose out of his bed, possessed by the mother plant from eating the bizarre fruit. He made his way out of the kitchen and out the back door, making his way towards the gardening pots. Would he be able to garden in this state? It seemed like he was looking for more plants to nurture. Suddenly, Darian was spooked by a noise at the front door. He ran around the house to see Vlad the vampire at his front door. He ran away, leaving his sister Lily completely unprotected from the vampire's wishes. It appeared like Darian was running all the way to the crater, but he turned around last minute. He found a few of his people in an alleyway before he staggered his way home, attempting to wake his sister, but not being able to call out to her. Okay, but just for 1 minute, imagine waking up to this. This would be terrifying. Okay, back to the story. Unable to call out, he turned and ran, staggering around and finding more plants to nurture. He found one in their front yard and took off running again. The next morning at breakfast, Darian told Lily about the strange dream he had of vampires and sprinting through the dark in Strangerville. Lily dismissed it as stress and gave her brother a reassuring hug, planting a bug on him just to keep an eye on him when she wasn't around or when they were sleeping. Lily was on her morning run when she came across Leslie Holland. As she staggered through the town, Lily needed to find the vaccine immediately. She tried to call Erwin, but to no avail. Lily decided to stop by the curio stand, but he wasn't there. But his replacement gave her the envelope that Erwin had saved for her. She said she couldn't thank her enough and headed off to the lab. Lily scanned her keycard and made her way to the basement. She put on her hazmat suit and made her way to the second door, hoping that the same keycard would work for both doors. Thankfully it did, and she made her way deeper into the laboratory. After walking down several flights of stairs, she came into the second lab, full of observation tanks, but she wasn't going to stop there. She continued on to the last hallway. As soon as she scanned her keycard, the door popped open, revealing the mother plant. It roared at her, although I couldn't get a clear shot of that because of the achievement that I reached. So here it is, just looking very intimidating. About that, I'll get a better one later. Lily tried to reason with the mother plant, telling it to let the town go, and the mother plant just laughed at her. She was going to have to start working on the vaccine immediately. So she retreated to the lab and began working. After many hours, she was able to create 3 vaccines, but she needed to test them on possessed Sims. Darian must have been waiting for Lily to get home because he fell asleep in her bed, although not for very long, as he suddenly became possessed. While having a self-discovery, he's now very cheerful, thanks to the mother plant. Unfortunately, this makes him completely unaware of Vlad the vampire waiting to hypnotize his sister and drink her plasma. Lily, still half asleep and hypnotized, gets out of her bed and waits for Vlad to bite her. Vlad compels her for a deep drink and then sinks his teeth in. Vlad then left Lily to pass out on the floor while her brother sprinted around outside, completely unaware of the situation. The next morning, Darian was still missing, and her neck hurt from sleeping, so she went to look for him. The sky had turned purple from the spores at the lab, and she needed to test the vaccines. Lily discovers her friend Cameron, the scientist that had given her the hazmat suit, had become possessed. She decided to use the first vaccine on her. It seemed to work, but she still needed to test 2 more. Cameron passed out in the street, and Lily moved on to the next subject. Lily administered the vaccine, but it only seemed to make the sim pee their pants. She wrote her test results in her notepad on her phone, recording that the second vaccine was not the vaccine that she needed. With the spore storm raging at the lab, she had no shortage of test subjects. She knew she had to administer the third vaccine, and fast. She tried it, but it again yielded the same results as the last vaccine. Lily recorded this in her notes and began investigating some of the other plants in the area, harvesting the fruit in order to create the vaccine. She scanned the area for more spores, but didn't find any, which was odd. She only found them at the lab. Lily tried calling Erwin again, but he didn't answer. When suddenly vines began growing out of the sink. Lily cleared them away with bleach, and the vines retreated down the sink. Lily needed to get back to the lab to create the vaccines immediately. Lily returned to the lab early the next morning and set to work on making the vaccines. She had a plan, and she would start with Darian. She created several of the vaccines and then went home. She administered Darian the vaccine, and it worked. He was no longer possessed by the mother plant, although Lily decided to keep the bug on him to be safe. They sat down and decided what to do next. Lily decided that she needed to recruit more people to help fight the mother plant. They gave each other a quick hug before heading out on their new mission. Lily found her friend Cameron standing outside their house, staring vacantly. She went out to join her and administer the vaccine. Lily could hear the mother plant in Cameron's voice before the vaccine took effect. Lily then begged Cameron to come with her to fight the mother plant. Cameron agreed because she never wanted to be possessed ever again. Then Lily set off to find another possessed sim. She came across her neighbor, Jess, and gave her the vaccine, although she refused to help us in the fight against the mother plant. Next, she found Erwin, who was finally back at his curio shop. Turns out he had been arrested and questioned by the Sims federal police. She gave him the final dose of the vaccine that she had, and he ran away, terrified. When she was able to catch up to him, Lily convinced Erwin to fight the mother plant with them. Erwin had always wanted to be a hero. Erwin shared some concern about not having a hazmat suit, but Lily assured him that they would be alright. She warned them that the mother plant might try to possess them again. Nevertheless, they pushed on. Lily gave them all a reassuring smile and opened the last airlock, revealing the mother plant. It gave a mighty roar as she climbed up the stairs, focusing all of its energy on her while her team got into position to start spraying. Possessed Sims flooded the containment room, occasionally tackling and fighting with the Sims who had the vaccine. Specifically Darian, although he seemed to be able to overpower them easily, causing them to fall unconscious. But the team's immunity was too low, and they needed to retreat. But Lily wasn't ready to give up yet. She sprayed the last of her vaccine. Erwin used up the last of his vaccine before the mother plant picked up Lily by her feet and dropped her on the ground. The group retreated as the mother plant laughed. The next morning at breakfast, Lily and Darian decided that they had only one option left. They needed to call in Michael. He was there when the outbreak began, and he was strong enough to help fight. Even though he hadn't been possessed by the mother plant, Lily vaccinated him just to be safe. Shortly after Michael received the vaccine, they headed off to the lab, eager to destroy the mother plant for good. Lily and her hopeful recruits returned to the lab for what was hopefully the last time. She turned the keycard over in her hand, and they began their descent into the lab. Before they came to the final airlock, Michael asked if anybody had any last words. Lily said, "See you on the other side," and they began to fight the mother plant. Lily walked up the platform to confront the mother plant as she began to spray it with the vaccine in hope that this would be the last time they had to fight the mother plant. Lily knew her team couldn't fight for much longer, so she threw the vaccine at the mother plant. The high-dose vaccine exploded in a cloud of green smoke. The mother plant gave a final screech and collapsed. They had done it. They had defeated the mother plant. They couldn't help but celebrate. Lily wanted to celebrate, but she couldn't help but think about who had woken up the mother plant to begin with, and why. Lily and Darian moved away from Strangerville after this, only promising to return if the mother woke up again. Which would never happen, right?